That actually feels really nice.
It feels very intimate, and
Really
we
nice.
listen to each other, and it's easy to focus on the conversation. Thank you for coming. I believe that in the first stages of a project like this, everything is nice because everything is a new thing. And for me, you are the first the first type of guest that actually reaches out because there was some type of talk and reference to you from us.
Okay.
And with the number of subscribers that we have now and that we had when we first spoke, it's amazing. So whoever talked to Jessica about this podcast, thank you very much. Jessica, why don't you give me, before we enter, a little bit of background about yourself?
Sure. My name is Jessica. My surname is Lau, so very obvious I'm Chinese. I'm born and raised in Hong Kong. I am currently working as a psychologist. I do more of adult work, indeed, less of children's work. So I don't do special need, autism, ADHD, not that type of psychologist. I do more with adult work on mood disorder. So anxiety, everything related to mood. Anxiety, depression, shame, anger. Like some people have are facing difficulties managing their anger. Like they have aggressive behavior and then they regret it, So shame, anger, depression, anxiety, more related to mood disorder. I deal with them. And I also focus on grief counseling. So any type of loss, not just about death of loved ones or pets, but more sometimes loss can be intangible. Losing a status, losing an identity, we're going to talk about that.
Yes.
Losing a job, that's grief as well. Just any type of loss that is triggering for people. And
I see.
Lastly, I actually focus on addiction as well, and that's why I'm here. I focus on behavioral addiction mainly, not substance, but more on work addiction, gambling disorder. Sometimes, shopaholic, shopping, like behavioral addiction. That's my third specialty, and that's actually what brings me here today.
Yes. How before we get into the topic that is going to occupy this conversation, how wide it's, for example, shopaholism? Because I never met someone, and I have the feeling that it's one of those things that no one notices and no one recognizes. Maybe not even the person themselves.
Yeah.
How do shopaholics find out about what they're doing?
I think it's more on the compulsion. Like they feel like there is a compulsion inside that drive them. It's a compulsive drive to keep shopping, and they couldn't stop, even when they want to. Even when they know that there is a problem there, they're spending too much, their credit card bill is piling up, they cannot stop. That is the first thing. So this behavior, shopping, is supposed to be happy, right? This behavior starts to become stressful to them. That the fact that I can't stop shopping, it has started to become very stressful for them. So that's criteria 1. And criteria 2 is that it starts to affect their functioning. For example, because I have to spend so much time shopping, I am spending less time with my family. I really couldn't go to work sometimes. I need to be absent from work because I really want to stop. Like it's starting to affect their functioning, social functioning, their relationship, their occupational functioning. So when shopping becomes a stress to you, when you can't stop, there's a compulsion, when it's starting to affect your functioning, then they know that I may have a shopping addiction. I may have an issue there. So this is how they find out.
Yeah, I mean those cases are super extreme. But if I have to be totally honest, I am not. At points, I admit I might have been a little bit consumist, over-consumist.
Don't we all?
And normally it coincides with the saddest periods of my life. And then when I'm happy, when I'm busy, when I'm busy in a good way, when I'm busy, let's say, in something that stimulates me, then the need to just go around and buy it actually disappears, and it gets substituted with actually some type of rejection for buying. For example, I travel a lot for work. I've been doing the same, like 150 to 200 days of travel in the year for 11 years. And
Wow.
excuse me. And I have an amazing collection of sunglasses, because that's actually the thing that you find in a very wide range in airports. And I do realize that I used to buy sunglasses when I was alone, and I was sad because I was alone, and I would try to cover that sadness. The other day, and then I stopped buying sunglasses. I think the last pair of sunglasses was a few years ago already. So because I just cannot handle so many, and I feel a little bit ashamed of. I might have maybe, I don't know, 20 pair of sunglasses, which is a little bit embarrassing. So the other day, I was in Auckland's airport in New Zealand, and I saw this amazing pair of sunglasses. Like really nice, like it fit me perfectly, super light, new technology. They even have, I don't want to say the brand because they don't pay me, but like the lenses were fantastic, and I couldn't bring myself to buy them. It was the opposite. It was like, I don't wanna break this spell of happiness that I'm having lately, just with throwing money down the bin.
Yeah. Oh, Fernando, I want to tell you literally speak out something very important about addiction in general, shopping, gambling, work. One thing that is very important about addiction is that it has to carry meaning to it. So different people attribute different meaning to that. For example, shopping. Shopping is my source for happiness. And in a way, that's not an issue, right? But when would it become an issue is that is your only source. Your only source. Then there is a meaning to it. And why is it addictive? It's because, well, there is value to it then. Like we need happiness. We need that in our life. So you can't just say, oh, just quit it. Just quit. But because if you quit it and that's your only source for happiness, then what are you going to do? Like, you're quitting happiness for your life? So it's very hard to actually break addiction because of the meaning attached to it. Like, if that's your only source, then it's very difficult. And we're going to talk about work later, right? Like, maybe work at the same time, like maybe that's the only source that a person feels worthy as an individual, or maybe that's the only source that they feel the sense of mastery, the sense of achievement. Maybe in all other aspects, I feel like a failure. So I have to use work, this thing, to almost support my entire well-being. So it's very hard to tell people, oh, just quit. For like substance abuse, it's the same. Like, there are drugs that make people feel very warm. Like, after they have consumed the drug, the body feels so warm. And then usually those people who have that type of addiction, they really lack physical hug from their parents when they were young. So there is meaning. Like, the drug, they're not really addicted to the drug, but really addicted to the meaning that the drug can bring them. Oh, maybe that's my way to feel connected, the feeling of like being hugged and all that. So yeah, that's exactly what you're talking about. That's exactly why, echoing what you said, like when you feel happy, you don't feel that much need to shop. But when you're like the period of sadness that you're talking about, like when I have the period of like sadness, and I actually feel a higher urge to shop. That's because like you're just trying to use those behavior to meet your needs.
Yes, we can get into that later. But so when Jessica and I spoke on the phone a few weeks ago, and we put on the table the different topics we could actually have a conversation about. A lot of them were listed, but she proposed one that, in my opinion, is extremely interesting because in today's world and age, and in the city that we live in Hong Kong, work is something that defines everyone. I've always said that we cannot get rid of work in Hong Kong because Hong Kong is a very difficult city. It is a very difficult city if you are born here because it is extremely competitive.
Yes, true.
So if you are not an extremely added value generator, you are relegated to very low living standards, to be frank.
I hear you. Totally.
And if you are an expat or someone visiting, this city is less forgiving if you are not, let's say, of the high achieving class,
Okay.
because it kicks you out. Everything is expensive.
Yes. Yeah. Survival here is difficult.
Obtaining a visa is not the easiest thing,
Yeah.
because either you need to get it through a company and you need to prove to that company that you're worth more than a local, or you need to have a business visa, which means that you need to be making money constantly. So for one reason or another, work is a main topic of conversation, of how people interact and so on. So what we're going to try to do today in this conversation is to deconstruct what work and workaholism means, and see what we can do to solve it, or at least how we can identify it.
Yeah.
What is workaholism?
Well, as explained when we were talking about other types of addiction, workaholism, I have to say first that it's not an official diagnosis yet. It's you can't find it in the diagnostic menu. So usually people come, the diagnosis will be like anxiety disorder or depression, or like sleep disorder, they can't sleep, or substance abuse addiction. Workaholism is not yet an official diagnosis, but it's a phenomenon that is actually quite widely studied in the psychological field. So to give you a brief definition of work addiction, is a compulsive drive to work. So basically there's a compulsion inside that you just really want to work. You can't stop. You can't relax. You are always thinking about work. Your life is consumed by work. All other things are minimized. So there's a compulsion inside. If you're not working, you're thinking about work. You're so consumed by it. And it is, once again, the two criteria. It is bringing you a lot of distress. Actually, this thing is no longer, something that is desirable. It's stressful, but you can't stop working. It's really stressful to you, but you just can't stop thinking about it. And then it once again is the same criteria. It affects your functioning. It affects your relationship. It affects your family. It affects your health. It affects sleep, eat, like all that functioning. It affects your social life. So 3 things: the compulsion, the drive to really keep working. Secondly is you feel distressed, actually. It's actually, you can't stop, but you feel stressful. Thirdly is it is affecting your functioning. Then that's like the definition of work addiction, but it is not yet an official diagnosis.
I see. What if someone is working compulsively because he or she believes that that's the only way to being safe, to avoid financial problems, to avoid being kicked out of their home, to avoid being able to pay for the bills?
That's different, because when it's working only to feel safe, then actually let me then share something healthy. If you have a healthy relationship with work, it will meet all your needs. You ever heard of, you probably heard of it, you heard of the Maslow hierarchy of needs?
Yes.
You heard of that, the pyramid?
Yes.
Indeed, if you have a very healthy relationship with work should be something that can meet all your needs, the basic level of needs, like physiological needs, right? It can feed you, it can, provide safety, a shelter, and then it higher level wise, it can meet your need for self-esteem, like you feel good about it. And the highest level, work can meet your need for self-actualization. Like you feel like you have a purpose in life, you're using your potentials. So indeed, a healthy relationship with work is not taking away either. But an unhealthy relationship with work would be like, I'm just meeting the safety need and keep meeting the safety need. And I sacrifice all other needs. I sacrifice my need for love and belongingness. I sacrifice, all other needs. I sacrifice my need for, connection. It's then very imbalanced. So it's different, first of all, whether you're actually just meeting the safety need and ignoring all other needs in your life, you don't eat, you don't sleep, the type of thing. And secondly, the difference is that when you're only working for safety and you earn your money, and when you get off work, how do you feel, Fernando?
No, it's not my case, but
if imagine if you're actually only working for safety and then you earn the money, right? And then after you earn the money, how would you feel?
No, empty.
empty.
Yes, you don't know what to do.
Empty, you don't know what to do, exhausted, right? But for people who have work addiction, after they earn the money, they've got the results already, but they will still keep working.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what, for people who just work for safety, work for money, after they gain the money, they'll be empty, exhausted, and then they probably go, I don't know, watch Netflix, so like, just relax, right? But for people with work addiction issue, after they earn the money, they go home and they keep checking their emails. They keep, still they couldn't get away from it. So that's the difference.
Okay.
That whether you're able to actually relax after work, whether you're able to actually, I finished working today and I'm gonna relax. Life is tough. I have to earn to provide for my family. But then like after work, I would be like, relax, right? And maybe like talk to my wife, like talk to my family. But then for people with work addiction, after work, there is no after work. Like after work, ruminate. Have I got this email right? Have I got the mistake? Have I got something wrong at work today? Do I have to do more? Am I enough? Like all the continuation. So it's a bit different than, a compulsion to work to meet my safety. Sure, then you meet your safety. For people with work addiction, a compulsion to work, okay, for safety, it's just a mask. Safety and then so much more.
Yes. Yeah, my problem is that I see myself in some of the symptoms. So in some of the things that you say, I say myself, like reminiscence about things that I did in the evening, involuntarily. Like I really hate that part. I think maybe it has to do more with obsessiveness and something else. But I really look forward to relax. Normally, I stop working. Let's say when I arrive to one of these, either exhaustion or it's just time to go home. I try to keep a long-term view, meaning that there are certain things that I need to do. I need to go to the gym. I need to spend at home at least an hour before my daughter goes to bed. These type of things keep me mentally in shape for the day after.
Then Fernando, you are still in control.
Okay.
You need to, you need to spend an hour with your daughter, go to the gym, long term, sustainable type of work. But for people with work addiction, they can't. Like, I know that I need to spend an hour with my daughter, but I just need to maybe do another proposal. Maybe I need to be ahead, of like, they can't get them. I know I need to go to the gym. I know that's the long term, sustainable way. I can't. It's like the urge inside. They can't be like you, like, I just work, but I know and I can do it. Like I know that I have to go to the gym. I know that I need to be, have a sustainable living style. They know, but they can't. And there's like this, like, there's a very good book on addiction indeed. It's called In the Realm of the Hungry Ghost. I'm not sure if any audience has read this book, but then
we will link it in the Realm of the Hungry Ghost. I'll write it down.
It's like there is the hungry ghost inside. Like you need to work more. So that's the difference. I hope that answers your questions.
No. You make me feel a little bit relieved, even though even though being me is intense for other reasons. In the Realm of the Hungry Ghost, guys, go and buy it. A lot of my colleagues and friends here in the city will make good use of it. Why do these people like that you described, and I know a few of them, that it's like you want to tell them get a life, especially when they try to include you in their dynamics. Those people that that they wake up at 6 and they send you a message at 6:05 and they're not happy, or they're at dinner and they're checking emails. I've seen people be with clients and checking the emails constantly, like no, but you are here. Just the emails come later, but even they forget the present obligations for the future obligations. Why are they like this?
Why are they like this? Shall we have a guess? What do you think?
I'm not the expert.
Well, I won't say I'm the expert in all those. I'm really, really trying to learn and explore myself as well. If I want to go back to your point of like safety, right? Like if for those people, I'm going to earn, for example, a certain number of money per month, then if they answer you, I work that hard because I want to earn more money, and then you ask them, then what is the amount? and then they can give you an answer, and then once they hit that amount, the usual scenario is that once they hit that amount, they say, oh no, we need more, that's
Yes.
so once again echoing your point of like safety. Like sometimes you can tell there are people who are just not working for just to provide, like just there's something more behind.
Yes.
Why are they like this? We can look at some typical profile of workaholics indeed, and I'm sure some of your audience and probably myself can resonate. There are profiles called self-sacrificer profile. So when we were young, imagine they're like, like when you're like a child.
Mm-hmm.
And let me tell you a story so it's easier to understand. For
Okay.
example, when you're young and say you're like the eldest in the family, like you're the eldest sibling, okay? And then parents will always say, oh, you have to be the role model, or you have to like try to like sacrifice for your younger siblings, something like that. And then maybe they also observe that mom and dad are more vulnerable in the family, like mom and daddy are struggling as well. So the elder sibling, what would they think? Like they wanna,
Yes.
What do you wanna say?
They need to become the provider.
They need to be strong, right? They need to be the provider. Like they need to like sacrifice the need because like mommy and daddy need me, because you know what? Because my siblings need will have to come before me, right? And eventually they grow up and they have an identity inside that, like I should sacrifice. Like I have to be the sacrificer. And then eventually these people grow up and it's very hard for them to say no. It's very hard. I don't know if you met people who just like who can't say no. Like there are people who can't reject others, right? So when they grow up, like because they couldn't say no to mom and dad, they couldn't say no to like, I want that cake too, but I have to give it to my younger sister first. Like I couldn't really respect myself. I couldn't say no. Then they grow up and they become like, when they enter a company, a corporate. When people say, can you do that? Can you do that? They say, I don't want to, but then I won't say no,
Yes.
And then eventually the self-sacrificer identity continues.
Yes.
And then and then they find themselves like keep living this identity. And then eventually, that's how the addiction starts. Like they're almost addicted to this identity of like, I have to, I was the self-sacrificer in the family, then I have to keep being the sacrifice. Like, nobody want to go to this business trip. Let me do it. You know? That type of people who is very hard to define boundary. Like, how do I define boundary? How do I say no? But he's going to be unhappy,
Yeah.
like the very other directed type of people. So this is a very typical profile of work ethic. Like usually, they are the eldest in the family. Usually, maybe they observed that parents were needy. Parents needed them and younger siblings needed them, So eventually they have this identity in them and it just loop and loop and loop and loop.
Okay.
And then this is the first type. And secondly, there are work addicts who grow up in family that are full of shame.
Okay.
For example, when they were young, like maybe parents usually are very demanding on them. Like they need to score A, be excellent. A lot of demands, a lot of expectation. And if they can't do that, they're being called a failure. They're being called like, how can you be so like underachieving, like all that. So there's just a lot of shame. And then for these people, they grew up wanting to prove. That makes sense, right?
They
like,
to prove the parents wrong, yes.
Yes, like just want to prove. And then it becomes like, that approval seeking. Like they really want to prove. They feel so ashamed. Like, how can you look at me like a failure? And then just want to prove and prove and prove. And they prove it to one boss, not enough. I need to prove it to two bosses, the third, and then and they prove and the never ending proof that I'm good. Can you see that I'm good? So this is like the second very typical profile of work ethics.
Yes. one of the questions is, and of course here we are ballparking it. How many people in high ranks in companies and even government belong to these profiles?
Wow, this I can't say. Well, first of all, I don't have the data. I
How
wish I
much
could
do you
tell
reckon?
you.
We are ballparking. This is just opinions, guys. This is not scientific. This is just let's say educated guess.
What, you were asking about like what government official?
No, because my theory is that a lot of you don't have to have a distorted psychological dash emotional background to be a leader, to have success. But there is a lot of correlation between having those things and having success, because this self-sacrificer, the member of a family with full of shame, and other profiles that I would be very interested to get into, at the end of the day, they carry a fire inside. And that fire actually motivates them to do more than the one next to them. So we are actually being driven by people until the whole humanity kind of gets on the same page and mental health becomes a priority. The whole humanity, we are just carried away or carried on or pulled by profiles that have a fire inside that sometimes is kept within limits that are reasonable. Sometimes it gets out of hand.
And sometimes I think it's very hard for these people to stop because they get so much reinforcement. They get so much glory. You know, people are almost like reinforcing. How do I say it? Like people are almost like clapping hands for workaholism. Oh wow, like she can, you know, there's a fire inside her. Like she can, look at her, she can work nonstop. Like it's almost like glorifying this issue. So a lot of people come, the suffering is so lonely. They can't talk about it, and it seems like, oh, everybody loves that about me. So you're right, like it is fire, and sometimes it's like even glamorized for something that is such a deep suffering for people who just couldn't stop working.
It is. What are the effects, the most notable effects of this workaholism when it comes to, let's say, physical, emotional, behavioral, even social?
Well, I think, you know, we can almost say it together, right? Like physically, what are the effects of like you working nonstop? Like your body can't sustain. Eventually, you have, well, some people don't have appetite. Some people have like really difficult gut, like digestive issues, a lot, like very common indeed. And then a constant chronic headache or just different type of pain. The body is screaming for them to stop, but they just can't, right? And then sleep. This is huge. Like they can't sleep. Imagine that you're so tired and then you still can't sleep. It's a very deep suffering. They just can't get their mind off. Like it's restless. It's like on edge and key out, you know? So sleep is a huge issue. And physically, some people use substance to help. So it's indeed research has shown that workaholism and alcoholism or other type of substance abuse are in positive correlation. That means like they need to use those to help. Which
is a contradiction, because at the end of the day, alcohol is a depressant, and when you're tired and you drink alcohol, you sleep less, or let's say you sleep worse, I should say, and you wake up more tired. I'm saying this because I, for several reasons, I decided to give myself a break for 3 months and don't drink alcohol for 3 months. So I'm now today is almost one of the last days of the second month.
Wow.
And the thing is, I'm feeling amazing. So if workaholics found out that alcohol is actually doing the opposite to what they believe they're doing, they would never touch alcohol. It's totally counterproductive drug.
Well, the physical effect, right, as we said, and then, well, definitely emotional effect. Like if we talk about the impact, right, you're almost like hyper vigilant. You're like thinking about like, am I perfect enough? You know, like the emotional stress. Like, have I made any mistakes? Have I done enough? Have I checked that? You know, you're almost like extremely careful. So it really exhausts your mental energy.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's another effect. And stress has, or once again, stress, and then you go back to the body. It is a cycle. The mind and body, you know, like it's a cycle. It keeps reinforcing the negative loop, and then your relationship falls apart, right? If you're always working, and then what about your spouse, your kids? Like you start to feel like, oh, maybe you're losing some form of like involvement and engagement with them, and then you feel the distance. And you know what? When they feel the distance, they probably, oh, let me just work then. It's not rewarding here at home. So the loop keeps continuing. So it's a very difficult situation. The effect is huge. And you know what? Actually, long-term consequence, if you keep working, eventually your productivity will be very low too. Like you can't sustain. So it's not even good for the productivity.
I totally agree. So the problem with work addiction, in my opinion, is that it is very blurred as an illness, as a condition, because it overlaps with many other things.
True.
How do we assess the risk for work addiction? So we have an experiment. Jessica sent me a work addiction risk test.
Yes.
And I think it's going to be fun if actually we do the test on me, because I put skin in the game. So Jessica,
I want to invite the audience listening to this podcast to probably do that with us. And okay, let me. Before we actually start the work addiction risk test, by the way, it's an official psychological inventory is used indeed in the clinical field to detect. So it's scientific, it's well evidence-based. So but before I even do that with you, I want to have a disclaimer to everybody that it's not that, if I score higher, then now I'm a work addict, I have a disorder. Like, it's not like that. Like, as I said at the very beginning, you have to feel stressful. Like, if you don't feel stressful about it, there's no distress in you, then it's not a disorder. It's not a problem. If you don't feel stressed, it's not a problem. And if there is no compulsion at all, you can stop. You can go to the gym. You can spend time with your daughter. There's no compulsion, then it's not a disorder.
Then it's okay.
Yeah. And then if it's actually not really affecting your other part of functioning, your family, your social functioning, then once again, it's not. So these are 25 statements, and I don't think we have time for all the 25, but I have actually selected some.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, Fernando, like, let's do it.
All right.
So okay. So there are some items that when people are doing these assessments, they need to rate. And after all, they have a score. Then the score will determine whether they are, clinically significant work addict or not.
All right.
It's a spectrum. Okay. So on the scale of probably 1 to 5, indeed, okay, let's try the first statement. I feel guilty when I'm not working.
6. 10 being I feel guilty.
Okay. And it's hard for me to relax when I'm not working.
Depends on the moment of the year. If it's on holiday, 0.
Oh.
If it's during the work year, 7.
Okay. Well, that's the thing, right? If people are on holiday, for work addict, it's still a 10.
It's still a 10.
Still I can't relax on holiday. I can on surface relax, but I'm at the back of my mind, I'm thinking about my email, something like that.
No, I'm not. Okay. I disconnect. The fact that I think the holiday, a friend of mine, shout out to Magnus. I don't know where you are, but you owe me a dinner and a night out. He said there is no holiday if you don't spend enough time that you forget what day it is. And I think that's an amazing definition of holiday. And since he mentioned this on a random dinner, I think, or on a random beer that we were having somewhere close to here, and it got me thinking, because I had been taking vacations, 3-4 days, 2 days, and then I realized no, I need to go back to the 2-week at least holiday.
Yeah.
We don't have normally in this world and age the luxury to take 1 month or more, but yeah, that's what I follow. I try to go on holiday and I try to forget if it's a Thursday or Friday or Saturday.
Yeah, try to detach, right? And it's so
Yes.
good that you can do it. Okay, let's move on. We have another item, rating item. I put myself under pressure from self-imposed work deadlines.
10.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
And if I pretend I'm not, it's because I'm trying to do more things. I'm trying to bite more than I can chew.
Okay. I dive into projects to get a head start before plans are finalized.
Yeah, a little bit, yes. 5.
5, okay. I forget, ignore, or minimize celebrations such as birthdays, reunions, anniversaries, or holidays.
I wrote depends, but actually I think I was being a little bit too harsh on myself. Nah, I don't think I do it.
Okay.
I think I at least the few loved ones that I have, that I consider my close core,
Yeah.
I try to celebrate them.
I have clients who, they just can't, like, they have to. Like, they feel like they have to. Like,
I did sacrifice, and this is going to be, it makes me feel a little bit ashamed of myself. I did miss the first birthday of my daughter, because it was during COVID, and I really have to work.
Yeah.
I did have to travel for work.
Yeah.
So the opportunity to go to Korea, which was the
Yeah.
only country in Asia I could visit, came up.
Mm-hmm.
And it only made sense to go like 18 to 20 days, because otherwise, with all of the different quarantines and the blah, 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 it just was not worth it. And in the middle, there was the birthday of my daughter. So I said, okay, she's turning 1. She will never remember. So I skipped it, and I regret it deeply.
Okay. But it's once, right, for you. But for really, like, people suffering from work addiction, isn't always. Like,
Always.
all
the
Like,
time.
I always, like, miss. Like, I say it. I'm not gonna miss it next time. But next time they miss it again. It's a very difficult situation. Okay, I really want to invite the audience to play this together with us.
I hope they do.
As
Yes.
a self-awareness,
Sincerely.
really.
Don't lie to yourselves.
It helps with some self-awareness indeed. Okay, continue. I prefer to do most things instead of asking for help.
10, 20.
Oh, wow, 20. Okay. I get impatience when I have to wait for someone or when something takes too long.
100.
Okay.
Now you're getting you can do my profile too.
I seem to be in a hurry, racing around the clock.
Try not to, but maybe 7 or 8.
Okay. For people with work addiction, they don't know why they're rushing, but they're rushing all the time. Like, they would tell you, like,
No, I know why I'm rushing.
yeah, like, you know, right? But they were like, I actually don't have to rush. Nobody's actually rushing me, but I'm rushing myself.
No,
something
that's
like
not
that.
my case. No, not in that sense. No.
Good. I engage in 2 or 3 activities at once. They use the shield called multitask.
I try actively not to.
Okay. I overcommit myself by biting off more than I can chew.
Yes, solid yes.
Solid, yes. Okay. Things don't move fast enough to suit me.
Most of the time. Maybe
Okay.
7 or 8.
We have a few statements left. Select a statement, by the way. I work in my head thinking about future projects.
Yes, 10.
I continue working after my coworkers have called it quit.
Normally, yes.
Okay. I get angry when people don't meet my standard of perfection.
Depends on the person of the relationship. If you are a friend, no. If you are a coworker, yes. Depends. Yeah. If you are a friend or a family member, I normally cut people slack. If you are a coworker, I like I don't know. I think that people should care about what they do.
Yeah, I will be less forgiving, right, if it's a coworker. Okay, we have last few. I get upset with myself for even making the smallest mistake.
Before, yes, now no. Now I've actually I live by the motto is better done than perfect. So I think it's more effective. So I try to for me, I focus on the output, and I do mental calculations. So let's say if I have to do these things to be, if I have to try to avoid the smallest mistake, I'm never gonna have output.
Yeah.
So I just, let's say, for example, this podcast.
Yeah.
This podcast is the best exercise, and I recommend everyone to do a project like this, okay? Because you do have exposure. You have to do many different things. Like you cannot imagine how many things go into creating a podcast like this. Very small, little different activities, and you cannot do them correct at the first trial.
For
You
sure.
just cannot. So you just
Yeah.
need to live comfortably with the idea of having weak points.
Yeah. But you know what, going back to what we've talked about the upbringing of work addicts, when they are like shamed for not scoring an A, for not being 100, when they grow up, they can't forgive their mistake. Like, you know, they almost internalize their harsh parents, you know?
Yes.
So it's like they just can't let go, you know? So it's a little different than what you're talking about. They know the motto. They can't live by the motto. That's the thing.
Yeah, I was not unlucky in that sense. I think I was very lucky because my parents pushed me to excel. They
Yeah.
always believed I was very capable, and they said that they had one phrase. I was talking to someone the other day about it. They said, Fernando, I had a Down syndrome student in my class. His name was Gonzalo, and he said, Fernando, if Gonzalo achieves a 5/10,
Yeah.
it's a super success. It would be like a D, no? If he gets a D, it's a super success. But your obligation is to get an A because you're capable of having an A.
They believe in you.
Yeah, but they put that pressure on me. So now, but they didn't shame me if I didn't get it, because normally I would get the A, so like 99% of the time. So actually, in my case, I don't have the pressure of the shame, but I do have the pressure of the identity. That day when I got into the university and to study aerospace engineering, it was a very cold shower.
I see. But it's actually make a huge difference when they believe that you can get an A, and then you get an A, and if you don't get an A, they're not shaming you for not getting an A.
No.
That's actually makes a huge difference.
No, actually, they didn't shame me. They would look at me, they were like with sincere worry. I said, "What's going on, Fernando?" Like,
okay.
yeah, which I don't know which is worse.
Okay, we have the last one, I think. Actually, last two. Where are we? I put more thought, time, and energy into work than into relationship with loved ones.
No, I don't think so. I think I put the same intensity in everything.
Okay.
I try to be intense
In every
around the clock. Yeah, 100%.
Okay, so
All right. So what do you think? What is the diagnosis?
oh, sorry, I haven't been recording your rating, but you
More
know
or
what?
less, more or
I
less.
really don't think you have a tendency at all. Like, if you, first of all, it's not giving you stress. You don't feel the compulsion. You can stop. You can relax. During holiday, you're diverting your energy in all different aspects of your life. It's not just consumed by work. So you're safe.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
But I really think, I really want to, take this opportunity to, maybe speak to your audience, like that.
It's all yours.
Like if you really feel like for all the items you're listening to this podcast, you're like, yes, that's me. Yes, that's me. And you're like, almost like every item is a 10. Like, that is me. Then maybe it's something worth noting, worth your own attention. And maybe you even resonate with the profiles that I've talked about. Maybe, maybe growing up, like now you can't say no because like you have always been, like that person in the family that is like so accommodating, so
Sure.
sacrificing. Maybe you even resonate like with what we've just talked about. Like, I grew up never feeling enough. I'm always shamed, like, and then you even have all the yes in all the statement just now. Then please, like, just, you don't have to live like that forever. I really want to, like, raise some awareness on this topic.
If you have any of those problems, if you actually feel like this is talking to you, reach out to Jessica. I'll put your. We need to do this type of insert. At the end of the day, is the least that I can do to repay you, the conversation. So please reach out. The details we will put them in the description. I'll get them for you later. Do you think that I have a few questions that I believe can help us contextualize a little bit the problem. Do you believe that the problem of workaholism has always existed, or is it now more accentuated because of the current digital world that we live in?
I think it's always existed. I think it's always existed because of the meaning to it, as we said. But then I think for these days, it's so much harder to find people who are suffering from it. Well, as we spoken about it, people would post on Instagram of like, oh, like I'm busy, you know, like it's like they shake their hands and they ask like, are you busy? Like busy? And then if I tell them no, then it seems like it's like a problem. So now it's almost like normalized. This thing should not be normalized. It takes a toll on people's life. Like, you know, it takes a toll on people's health, physical health, mental health, the quality of relationship and everything. And they're trying to fill the void that can never really be filled. Like they're feeling the void of like, oh, maybe I can do one more job, one more work, get one more award to feel enough. But they never feel enough, you know?
Yeah.
Like maybe I can sacrifice. But where is the ending of it? You know, like, but the thing that is so haunting to me is that it seems like we are so glamorizing this. It's like glamorizing suffering, you know? It's like glamorizing, oh, like, I haven't slept for 7 days because of work. I'm like, why would you be proud of that? You know? So I think, to answer your question, I think that always existed. There was a period of time. It is actually when, you know, like when these inventory, these risk taxes develop, you know, sorry about being over intellectual, but there's another book called like Chained to the Desk. I would
Chained to the Desk.
I very much like to share with audience with this book. You know, like this period, like in the 80s or 90s, like work addiction is like well studied and all that. But then now these days, it seems like it's fading away. It's like, you know, well, everybody glamorized it. It existed, but it's harder to detect.
I see. The problem nowadays is that we are constantly connected. So I in the past, sometimes you were forced to stop working at a certain time. Now we can work around the clock if we want to.
Totally.
So
you got it.
That was where the question was trying to go. And again, in the long-term view, now I have started to force myself. Devices are improving. I have one mode in my iPhone that when I get after a certain time, all of my notifications they just get turned off.
Yeah.
And then whenever I remember, I even turn the phone physically.
Yeah.
Not airplane mode, not night mode. I turn them off.
Yeah.
Because it's very easy. These phones are designed to hook you in, and if you want to do something for 1 minute, they keep you in for 30 minutes. So even if you want to, let's say, I don't know, remember what write the grocery list, do you end up on Instagram 30 minutes scrolling or checking emails?
Yeah.
Or you want to see the message of your mom or your picture and you see a message of your boss. So I try to do that, and then in the morning, if it's turned off, you do other things before actually looking at your phone.
Yes.
So
that's very good practice.
I try to do that. The problem is that, again, it depends on the working context that you have. I want to shout out to a company in which two of my friends work. It's called Alpha Sites. They're based worldwide. They're based in Hong Kong as well. They do expert sourcing for finance companies, consulting, and you know, activities that require a specific expert knowledge. And they have very good company culture, as per my understanding. It is not well received if workers overstay the normal hours, because they say if you do 14 hours today, you're not going to be present tomorrow. And that is fantastic, but I have never experienced myself Actually, I shouldn't say. The company I work for now, again, shout out to Lodes. People actually go home. I think it's 5:30, which is a very
fair time.
fair
right?
time. And I have to say, my boss, my two bosses reply to the emails until very late and from the very beginning in the morning. But most of the people take their time, so it's actually a good thing.
But I also want to add, like, for people suffering from this type of addiction, even if you let them off at 4 p.m., the brain is about, they just can't stop thinking about it. Like, it's not about you let them off earlier. It's more like it's a compulsion that defines this type of addiction. Yeah.
So for these people, what are some effective therapeutic approaches to cope with this, or to cope and to solve more than coping?
Okay, I feel like, well, of course, everybody should come to therapy.
I believe everyone should go to therapy, by the way.
Well, I mean, going to therapy is a huge step, but I would, for sure offer a little suggestion here.
Yeah.
I have the first way. Okay, I invite people who are having this work addiction tendency to take a paper out now, and then you write down 3 things that are important to you in your life right now. Say those are your values. For example, family. For example, like health, and then you try to schedule your time that are in accordance to your value. So when you see that your values are like family, health, and then you spend 80% of your time living against your value, then I may need to make a little shift. Okay, so the first way, I invite people who have work addiction tendency to really get a clarity on your values now, and see if you can schedule your life according to your value and see if anything changes. This is the first thing that I can suggest.
I think that's an amazing one, by the way. Yes, I agree.
It's actually very healthy, to design your life according to your value, to spend your time according to your value. Then you're aligned with yourself. You this is what people call inner peace. You're peaceful inside out. This is the first suggestion I would give. Secondly, I would invite them to, if they have the standard of perfection that they want to achieve, be clear about it. If you can't get rid of perfectionism, then be clear about it. Today, I'm going to do this. Then that's check. That's enough.
Okay.
Define your enough. Define that. So whenever you reach that, there's a point to stop. So you almost define a boundary for yourself,
Sure.
You can't say, I'm just going to do my best. Don't say I'm going to do my best, because for them, their best is unlimited. So what is best? What is best for today? Today best is 8 p.m. Okay, then 8 p.m. You set a boundary for yourself. It's not about, those people don't need their boss to manage them. They're very self-disciplined. So, you define a boundary for your own self. This is my second suggestion. Lastly, the third way I would think is take small steps. Say if you want to change your behavior, you don't go from 0 to 10. Say, I want to spend more time with my daughter. You don't say, suddenly I'm going to become a very involved father. Maybe you set it at 0 to 1. 1 means, okay, today I'm going to spend 15 minutes with her reading a storybook before she goes to bed. So 0 to 1, then you feel that sense of a little mastery to that behavioral change, Then you start to divert a little bit more energy to your family life. So try to set small goals, really, really small goal to change your behavior, and then celebrate from 0 to 1. If you can get to 1, 15 minutes with her, or even 5 minutes with her, celebrate. Then you start to engage in other aspects of your life, slowly, bit by bit, and maybe you start to enjoy it, and then work become less important, or less of the only source for your happiness, the only source for your sense of achievement. So 3 suggestions I would suggest. but go to therapy if it all gets too hard. If you feel like you're in the loop, then definitely seek professional help. Don't wait. Like, why wait? You've got to, life is short. You can live a good life. Why dive yourself into one thing that consumes you so much?
I totally agree. The three things are extremely wise to practice. Scheduling things are super important, because otherwise there is a certain tendency of work to take over the rest.
Yeah.
So I work, let's say, this is my second brain. Okay, I have my calendar, I have my reminders, I have my notes, I have everything. That's why in my calendar that it's the director of my life. I don't put only work. I put dinners with friends. I have the gym slots around, so I never miss them, because then I realize at the end I don't have time.
Yeah.
I know I have to do them, and I do them. There is Father Daughter Day in school 2 weeks from now on Friday. I know that's gonna be in the morning. That's locked. That's it.
Yes.
That's one. Second one is obvious. The third one I think is fantastic, because I'm just learning that for other reasons. That atomic habit approach, which I felt a little bit. So I have to say I'm a little bit of a contradiction, because I do believe in therapy a lot. I think therapy, especially due to the fact that our hardware and our software are not aligned. Like, we have hardware that belongs to 50,000 years ago, and we have software that has to interact with a world that is totally new. We need sometimes to
align, right?
And it's difficult, and we need experts, and we need to talk about things. But I hate self-help books. I just think I intellectually despise them. But I was going to Australia recently, and I didn't have a book. And next to my boarding gate, there was the monocle shop in the Hong Kong airport. And the only book that I seemed like, worthwhile reading was this one. So I bought it.
Atomic Habit?
And it was a big change. It was an amazing change. So actually, together to the other two, which chained to the desk, and in the realm of the Hungry Ghost.
Yeah, I'll share these two books with you after the session.
Yes,
I'll send you the links.
Please do. The Atomic Habits, they make a big change, because actually, when you try to totally change the way you are, it normally doesn't work in the long term. You need to just go step by step and get comfortable with the change.
Oh, sorry, before we end this, I want to add one more to the suggestion list. I suddenly remember one strategy that one of my clients told me. She said, now I try to schedule an appointment with myself. So on the calendar, there's an appointment with Fernando, like say on your calendar, there's like an appointment with Fernando. Then that time she tries to allocate that appointment time to herself. So I think that's also a strategy, like setting boundary, adding, like writing down your values, one little small goal at a time, plus maybe you can schedule some time for yourself and you put it on the calendar. Just so you can see it. Okay, this time, I have an appointment with myself.
It is. People would be surprised about the power of doing nothing. And by the way, it's not Fernando here and Jessica on this small rich podcast in Hong Kong in Shanghai that are talking about this. It's actually Jeff Bezos, which is one of the richest men in the world. He says, "I just allow my mind to wander." And before I heard it from Bezos, I started recently. Before going to bed, just laying in bed, sometimes listening to music, which is something that we stopped doing. Listening to music. We listen to music while doing other things. But tell me how many people really listen to music as an activity.
Like mindfully listen to music. Like really be present, right?
Yeah. Like
I hear you.
Yeah. So those things are important. Just to wrap up, to just give some guidelines as well, not only for the people that suffer from workaholism, but also for their friends and family. How can we support them in their struggles, and how we can pull them towards us, because sometimes someone that is in the middle of a problem, they don't find a rope to pull themselves from it. How can we give them a hand?
Well, first of all, stop praising them. Stop giving praise, or like, like clapping hands for their, like the achievement, like not achievement, but like, let me correct that. Stop like, like clapping hands for the superpower to work a lot. Sometimes friends and family, wow, they will be like, wow, like you can work so hard, you can work like so many hours, like, like stop praising them, please. So they know that this is not something that, that should be sustained and praised. Secondly, if you are somebody who observe that the other person has an issue with work, I invite you to engage with them and talk more about the consequence with them. As you said, what about if you continue like that? What about 5 years later? What do you think you will look like? What do you think you will lose? Make them aware of the consequence of the current behavior.
Yeah.
Make them aware of the consequence. I think this is something that is very important, So sometimes one don't know the consequence, right? We just work and work and work. There is, I can't think of the consequence. But if you have a loved ones telling you, in 5 years' time, you're going to look super old. Or like in 5 years' time, like your daughter is going to grow up and, she will have no attachment with you. Like it's something that people around you can remind you of the consequence, indeed can increase their motivation to seek help.
Yes, that is sometimes people it's very easy to lose sight. I try to tell myself things. I'm gonna reveal one thing that I never revealed anyone here. Well, I actually two things. One of them is I remind myself every day that my daughter will only be small for only 2-3 more years, and that's gone. And that amazing small creature will never exist anymore. It will become something else, but it will never exist anymore. So that motivates me. That's what motivates you to go back home.
Motivates. That's a good word. Like family and friends can motivate them by reminding them the consequence. They're gonna miss out and all that.
Yeah, and then there is something else that I do, which is the fact that I have a countdown in my phone. I have a countdown of, I approximated the date of my death. I don't know when I'm gonna die, but I put somewhere in the future, and I have here. I'll show you how many days I have until I die.
And you set it to age. What age?
I don't want to die at 70, but I set it to my 70th birthday because I thought it was something achievable, reasonable, but not overly ambitious.
Yeah.
If you ask me now that I have my daughter, and if I'm healthy, 80 would be fine. But imagine it doesn't change too much. Maybe it adds 3,600 more days. But when you tell people how many days they have left, there are not so many. There are not so many. How many days do you think I have left? Have you made that calculation?
I haven't, but I
roughly.
love
Don't
this
calculate.
approach.
Don't calculate. Just give me one. Just give me one. Just your perception, because let's then compare.
If I'm gonna live to 70, how many days have I got? I'm 33, turning 34.
Just give me a number. How many would you think? Okay, let's change the question. How many days would you think are a good number to feel okay, like, with the idea of having a lot in front of you?
Maybe 200,000. Is it too many?
Yeah, it's way too many. I have 12,000 in front of me. There's not so many days. It's
sometimes
it's an interesting change in perception.
This urgency is so motivating, right? Like if you know that time is limited, like there is actually an urgency to live.
100%.
That really motivates us.
No, so I think it's extremely unintelligent to share the good techniques, but I actually invite everyone to do this, because I did it for different reasons. I did it because I realized that when people around me passed away, for the first couple of days, I felt an urge to really live and do things the right way, and I had an extra level of energy that made me enjoy life much more.
Mm.
But then, because we humans, we are short-term biased, you forget about these things, and then
True.
you live on your own capsule.
Yeah.
And so I think it's useful to think about death and how and let's say the period that we have in front of us. I think is
Love it.
extremely motivating.
I love it. I really love this approach. And indeed, I'm sorry for being over intellectual again. There's another book on it.
No. By the way, no. Don't be sorry, please, because I think that conversation backed by some type of intellectual fundamentals, I think that is extremely more valuable. So we have the
Yeah.
third one.
I think the author is called Yalom, Yalom. And then there's a book called A Matter of Life and Death, something like that.
Okay.
It's a very interesting book. It's a book that is written between him and his dying wife.
Oh wow.
It's a letter and a letter and a letter and a letter. It's quite an interesting book on, how death reminds us to live well. We let the inexorable march of time and the transience of life to remind us to live well. I love to end it here. The transience of life really remind us to live well and to deal with whatever things that is consuming us and preventing us from living life. 100%.
I cannot say it better. Life is finite. This is why we need to take care of ourselves, guys. If we have a problem, if we have someone that we love with the problem, just try to give them a hand. I again extremely encourage people to actually have the courage to talk about themselves with someone that is well prepared to do it. So any one of you that want to reach out, you can read in the description the details of Jessica.
Not necessarily me, there are other people who are in the field, right?
Since you came here, I just wanted to send some clients your way. See now the camera.
Oh,
what happened to the camera?
It probably hasn't always been like that.
It's been good. The time that I've seen. Guys, I hope the episode was well edited. If not, we'll put it as anyway because the conversation was nice and most people listen to it anyway. It was amazing talking to you.
Thank you so much.
Have you felt comfortable?
Yeah, well, lovely. It's a good way for me to chat because I've been listening to people all day, so it's good to have a way to chat.
If you ever want to come back and talk about the other topics we mentioned in the email, you are super welcome because apart from being knowledgeable and giving intellectual background to the conversation, I think you're exceptionally well prepared. So thanks a lot for coming. It was lovely for me.
Thank you for having me.
No worries. And thank you for everyone that joined us in this episode. All the subscribe and like and comment and share with your friends, but especially this one because it's important. This is the last meeting of the week. Today is Friday, and I wish that you have a happy weekend. Ciao, ciao.